I'm such a firm believer that the universe also conspires with you and not against you, and the universe always has three answers for you, and those are either number one, yes, number two, not right now, number three, something better is coming for you, so just be patient. Yo, I haven't done this in such a long time. Welcome back to the AM with Amy. Today we're talking about rejection because your girl has been rejected plenty in this lifetime, as I'm sure most of you have. And a lot of you had a lot of questions for me on Insta stories because I asked you to send me some questions. And so let's just get started. Matthew C. Gray asked, how do you not let rejection be something that affects your self-worth and confidence? So let me break it down for you. 10,000 years ago, we came from a tribal system, a tribal community. So we are essentially hardwired for us to want to be liked, want to be socially validated, because back then you did not survive without people because you had no food, no resources, no shelter. So if you were out of a group, you would essentially literally die. So that's why we're hardwired to want to be liked. And with that comes rejection. And it is said that people who experience higher pains of rejection actually had higher rates of survival because they were able to correct their behavior more quickly. So rejection served a huge vital function in our evolutionary history. Evolutionary psychologists assume that our brain actually developed an early risk system for ostracism. So with that in mind, it is really important to understand that rejection is oftentimes not personal, and we're hardwired for those feelings of pain that come with rejection because of our tribal system. SS Bittersweet asks, how do you overcome the fear of rejection? Beyonce, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey, all of the greatest people in this world, I don't know, I just said a random list of people, but everyone has at least been rejected at least once in their life or multiple times, and that is just a universal feeling. But I think the way that you can healthily overcome the fear of rejection is learning how to use rejection as a building foundation to become a better person. So it is using it to basically correct and reshape your behavior so that you don't make the same mistakes. I'm such a firm believer that the universe also conspires with you and not against you, and the universe always has three answers for you, and those are either number one, yes, number two, not right now, number three, something better is coming for you, so just be patient. Linnell asks, what are some self-improvement questions you can ask yourself after rejection? I think it is asking, what did I do? What could I have done better? And what are the areas of improvement that I feel are needed best? And this can apply to romantic love, platonic love, family members, job rejection. It's learning that there are so many areas that we all as humans can improve in, and healing and growth are a consistent, continual process. It's like not one day that you're fully healed or fully grown. Rejection is divine protection, and a lot of times it is impersonal, because if you think about all the times you ever rejected somebody else or rejected a job or an opportunity, it's oftentimes because there is something better out there for you, not necessarily because you hated that job or because you hated that person. And so it's understanding that rejection is never really personal. I think a lot of times we quickly go to thinking, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough. We're making it so personal, but a lot of times, even with like romantic love, rejection isn't personal. It's oftentimes because a lack of compatibility, a lack of chemistry, different lifestyles, wanting different things at different time, a number of different reasons that aren't personal, and a lot of people are just quick to make it about themselves. But one thing I do know for sure is that the healthiest way to deal with rejection is understanding that you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you react to them. And I think a lot of times people, in dealing with rejection, you want to be angry or resentful, but when you really peel back those layers, you will see that actually those feelings of anger and resentment are actually just hurt and grief and sadness. Once you've kind of brought yourself back to that softness, you can understand that rejection can be a powerful thing. Ariel Vanilla Wafer asks how to deal with job rejections, and this is actually a topic that many of you asked about, how to deal with it. And I didn't put a specific topic on rejection because I feel like in a way this can be applied to all areas of rejection and can be applied universally. Success is not a linear upward line. It's not a constant ascension into the sky, and I think that this infographic or this little picture shows it best. It's like people think that this is what success looks like. Success is actually a lot of this, and nothing is true failure unless you give up, and winners are the people that consistently try and try again, and instead of thinking of it as taking a step back, it's more of a pivot. It's not a going backwards, it's more of a change in direction. And just like this graphic shows, it's very messy. And I think even Barack Obama, he stated that, you know, history has never been an upward incline of progression. It's always taken, you know, 10 steps forward and then 5 steps back with our current geopolitical climate. When it comes to any area of your life, especially your career though, you're gonna have to hold a lot of resilience, and you're gonna have to just get stronger. And just like any other fear that you have, when you consistently do something scary, you become less and less fearful of it because you become more resilient. And instead of making it personal that you didn't get the job because you were not smart enough, you were not good enough, think about how you can change your behavior and what you can do next time, because we can't often change who we are, but we can change what we do and how to get better at it. And a lot of times people don't judge us by who we are, they judge us by the things we do. So allow rejection to improve your behavior, improve your attitude, and just keep going forward. PSOS Bro asks, when is it okay to be persistent and when is it better to let go? I would say at the end of the day, after you've ruminated 1,000 different possible scenarios, because I'm sure a lot of us overthink the possibilities of rejection and all of that. So after you've done all that, I think it's important to check in with your heart and see if it feels good to hold on, then hold on. But if it feels terrible and if it hurts so much inside to hold on, then you know inherently it's not good for you and you should let go. Just listen to your heart, man. Max Bornus asks, is it better to be rejected or not tell your crush at all? So how would you feel if I told you, up until like 2 years ago, I would say I've never been rejected. But that just means that I never put myself in an opportunity to be rejected. And in doing that, you already reject yourself. If you do not ask, the answer is already no. So when you don't even tell someone that you like them or that you feel a certain way, you by default are already rejecting your own self. And something that I've learned these days is that if I don't ask, the answer is already no, so I might as well ask. IBH asks, I reject everyone and that's self-care. What's your stance on this? There is an African philosophy called Ubuntu that I learned about in one of my favorite books, The Book of Joy by the Archbishop Desmond Tutu and His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And basically Ubuntu means a person is a person only through other persons, meaning that our life is about connection. And there's a quote by Archbishop Desmond Tutu who says, it is about the essence of being human. It is part of the gift that Africa will give the world. It embraces hospitality, caring about others, being willing to go the extra mile for the sake of another. We believe that a person is a person through other persons, that my humanity is caught up, bound up inextricably with yours. When I dehumanize you, I inexorably dehumanize myself. The solitary human being is a contradiction in terms. Therefore, you seek to work for the common good because your humanity comes into its own in community, in belonging. So I feel like while some forms of rejection can be some forms of self-care, I believe that we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. So that's my stance on that. Suzer asks, worst rejection you've personally experienced. I think in this day and age of technology and social media and getting instant gratification and instant likes and dating apps, the worst form of rejection I personally experienced is ghosting. And I was actually reading an article about the psychological effects of ghosting and why it is so detrimental to the human heart. And it's essentially that when you get rejected, you usually know the reason, like someone doesn't like you, it's not a good fit. But when you ghost and when you basically just disappear, it leaves open so many doors for the worst possibilities. We do not get an answer. Your brain it goes to the darkest parts, and you start to just theorize all these reasons of why this person might have left, when back in the day we would have just heard, you know, I don't like you, you're a bad person, I don't have time for you, blah blah blah. And it was just way more direct, because once you know the answer, you can kind of accept that and move on. But what ghosting does, it allows so many different possibilities for your brain to run amok. And so I think ghosting is probably one of the most cowardly and awful ways to reject somebody. Dilvine asks, how should you respond to rejection, not only in relationships but just in your day-to-day life? And I think there is a really good quote by Wayne Dyer, and it says that when you meet someone whose soul is not in alignment with yours, send them love and move along. And depending on the rejection, the type of rejection, obviously, like, you know, if you get ghosted on, it's kind of hard to send somebody love. Also, how cute is this Kaja blush? It's a heart stamp, and then you just stamp it. Isn't that so cute? It's a Korean beauty brand, I think. But yeah, when it comes to ghosting, I think it's a little bit harder to send them love and move along. But vibrationally and energetically, you can totally just send them love and move along. You never feel bad for treating someone with kindness, but if you're rejected in an awful way, then also just move along. Gabby Bar asks, how do you make yourself less guilty for rejecting someone who is nice? Telling yourself that it is not personal and that you think they're amazing, and also being open and honest about that. Letting them know that you think they're a nice person, I think helps a lot. Aster Lilac asks, what is the proper way to reject? Be direct, be open and honest. Honesty is the best policy. And something that I heard on a podcast about relationships was actually a lot of people say that when you reject someone, a good standard text would be, you know, you're a great person, I think that you are smart and funny, but I just don't see any chemistry, or but I just don't feel anything. And I've used this text and said this text many times when I've gone on dates with a few guys that I just didn't connect with, and I've just said, you know, you're an awesome person, I think you're funny and smart, but I just don't feel anything. And something that I learned through this podcast was that anything that precedes the word but is kind of a negation. So it's like, you're a great person, but I just don't feel anything. And so that person kind of just doesn't even hear any of the good stuff. They just kind of hear that you don't like them and that you're not compatible or whatever. And so the relationship psychologist basically said that when you're writing these texts or when you're saying these out loud, it should be, I think you're a great person and I don't think that we're a great fit. Using the word and is more appropriate because it is not that they're mutually exclusive, or there's not an exception that, you know, just because you're a great person but I don't like you. It's actually the fact that you're a great person and I just don't see a fit. So that's something that I'm working on, and when I send those texts or when I say that in person, I'm gonna learn to say, you're a great person and I don't feel anything, but that's okay, because that's okay, right? I said but though, that's ironic. Also, I touched upon job rejections, but I wanted to say a quote from Maya Angelou that really encompasses how I feel, and it says, do the best you can until you know better, then when you know better, do better. I think it's as simple as that. BB.kind asks, have you ever stayed friends with someone you've rejected? Yes, all the time. If they are open to it, if they allow it, then yes, I would totally want to continue being friends, because me not liking you or me not feeling chemistry has nothing to do with that person as a character, as a whole. So if they want to be friends, I am so for it. But you know, some people, they got some egos and they just don't want to. Or, you know, sometimes it's painful for some people, and I acknowledge that. I'm done with my makeup now, so I'm gonna leave you with one last quote on how I feel about rejection, and it says, as I look back on my life, I realized that every time I thought I was being rejected from something good, I was actually being redirected to something better. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you want to be featured in an upcoming AM with Amy, be sure to follow me on Instagram because I pull questions from there. And if you want to see more AM with Amy's, I have a whole playlist at the end of this video. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye! Crank it down.